そっか、テコのいない未来か。無理。でも無理なものは無理。今考えるのは無理。だって私はテコと行きたいとこややりたいことがまだまだたくさんあるんだもん。だから今は考えられない。でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね。楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね。それじゃあ寂しさに負けないくらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう。
Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we are covering another anime line of the day, and this lesson for today is going to be a continuation from a previous one. This is our part 3 of our coverage of the show Amanchu Advanced. From the first episode of it, we're covering a scene at the end of the episode that is quite long, and we're trying to break down the whole scene. This is something we're doing for the first time, and yeah, so basically this is our third video covering it, and after this video we still won't be done, so that just goes to show you how much Japanese you can learn from a single scene of anime, right? So it goes without saying that if you haven't seen the previous 2 videos, you should watch those because we established the context of the scene and all that jazz. With the last one, we ended with our character Pikari saying that it's not happening, no way. She doesn't want to think about a time when they won't be friends in each other's lives anymore. She can't afford to think about that because she has so many things she wants to do and so many places she wants to go together with her friend Teko that she doesn't want to think about that right now, basically.
そっか、テコのいない未来か。無理。今考えるのは無理。だって私はテコと行きたいとこややりたいことがまだまだたくさんあるんだもん。だから今は考えられない。
And when Pikari says that, our character Teko, the kind of more timid one who started the conversation by saying that she needs to learn how to find fun things on her own or else she's going to be empty once their lives are separated and she doesn't have her best friend Pikari to follow around and enjoy things with anymore. She just basically says, and that just means yeah. And it's kind of just a subtle agreement to the statement that Pikari just made about them still having so much more things to do and so many more places to go together. And now we are going to start our lesson for today. Part 3, we are going to be covering 3 different lines. They're all medium-sized lines, basically.
でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね。楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね。それじゃあ寂しさに負けないくらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう。
And yeah, so this is going to be the first one.
でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね。
And this is going to be Pikari after having just said all that jazz about so many more fun things to do, so many more places to go together. She is now going to say, でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね. And so this is just going to translate to basically, but if that day really does come, I'll be really sad, basically.
でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね。
Let's just break this down really quickly. It's not really that complicated at all. First up, we have the word demo, which is just going to be a word that means but. So it goes at the beginning of a sentence commonly to mean but, however, something along those lines. Right after that, we have the word moshi, which is a word that is indicative of a conditional about to happen. It isn't required because when we use the conditional, we're going to conjugate the verb that we use with it into the conditional form already. Moshi just kind of adds a more, a further indication of it being hypothetical, but it isn't really necessary. But since we see it at the beginning of the sentence now, we can kind of have this prior knowledge that we are going to be saying a hypothetical sentence here. Moving along, we have the demonstrative adjective sono, which means that. It's going to be modifying the noun right after it, which is the word toki. So sono toki is going to be that time, basically. We're going to mark toki as the subject with the particle ga right there, and now it's going to perform some kind of action. And we have a good idea that this action is going to be a conditional action, a hypothetical action. And indeed it is kitara, which is the tara form of the verb kuru, which means to come. So if it's the tara form, tara has multiple functions, but in this case we know that it's hypothetical. And so then kitara is going to then, of course, translate to basically if come as opposed to come. So でももしその時が来たら is going to translate to but when that day really does come, or if that day really does come.
でももしその時が来たら
Then we have a few words left. The first one, kitto, which is just going to be an adverb that means basically definitely, surely, something along those lines. And it's going to be modifying the adjective sabishii, which is going to translate to lonely, sad, something along those lines. And so then really sad, something along those lines.
きっと寂しいね
And that is going to end the sentence right after we consider that ne right there, which is basically just a sentence ending particle that adds this nuance of like rhetorically seeking agreement to your statement. So altogether, that first sentence slash line, でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね is gonna be, but if that day really does come, it will really be sad, or I'll really be sad.
でももしその時が来たら
Let's move on to the next line, which is going to be said by Tickle, the other character here. And this is possibly our main line to focus on. It does have a decent amount of grammar patterns, I think, but it's not the longest one, but yeah, it's not a competition. We will treat all of the decently sized lines equally. So let's break down this one.
楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね
It starts right off the bat with a grammar pattern that is somewhat intermediate. It is the ba form of a word, doesn't have to be a verb, plus the particle hodo to mean the more something is of this, it is also more of this other thing. So in this case, we're using the words tanoshii, which means fun, and sabishii, which we just used earlier, which of course we now know means sad. And the way this works is we take that first one, we're using the first word tanoshii, which is the adjective, the e adjective that means fun. The construction of this grammar pattern demands that we conjugate it into the ba form. So tanoshii turns into tanoshikereba. And then what we do after is we put that same word tanoshii in its like plain dictionary form or whatever, right after the ba form of it. Then we put the particle hodo. So tanoshikereba, tanoshii hodo.
楽しければ楽しいほど
Which can be kind of weird from the perspective of an English speaker, that you have to include the word tanoshii twice. It kind of sounds like you're saying the more fun something is, the more fun something is. So it's kind of weird, but that's how the construction works. Those are the guidelines slash rules. So that right there, tanoshikereba, tanoshii hodo is going to translate to the more fun, basically. Of course, the implication is the more fun something is. And so now we can say that second part, which we want to say sabishii, which is sad, but we are going to, of course, specify or be a little more descriptive and say what exactly is sad. We're going to use the noun owari, which is, of course, end, so the end of something, when something ends, basically. Mark that with the particle wa, and then we're going to use our second word, sabishii, which means sad. So then, tanoshikereba tanoshii hodo owari wa sabishii is going to mean the more fun something is, the sadder the end is.
楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね
And that, of course, is quite a well-known saying in both Japanese and English. And so right after this, you see that we mark this whole sentence or phrase here with the quoting marker, the hard te there, because this is basically a well-known saying or a saying. And we put the verb yu, which means to say. And then they use the sentence ending particles yo ne, which is again just kind of yo as an explanatory particle and ne as a kind of rhetorical seeking agreement. And so then the implied subject here is just people in general or they. And so that basically means they say, right? And what do they say? Well, it's the whole quote that we marked with the hard te there. And so the whole sentence, 楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね is going to translate to basically, they do say that the more fun something is, the sadder it is when it ends, don't they, or right? And of course the question, don't they, right, is kind of a rhetorical question.
楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね
And so yeah, as we move on here, the next line is said by Pikari responding to this line of Teko's, and she also just says, which is of course like, yeah. Now we'll move into the third, actually decent sized line, and our last line to end this part of the lesson. We have the line, それじゃあ寂しさに負けないぐらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう. And this is going to translate to basically, literally, in that case, or then let's do fun things that won't lose to the sadness. Is what it basically translates to.
それじゃあ寂しさに負けないくらいたくさん楽 しいことをしよう。
So let's break it down, of course. So we're gonna jump in. The first word is Sorejya, and this is just basically a more casual version of soredewa, which is kind of a transitional phrase or something you say in the beginning to mean like, well then, or like with that considered, or in that case, something along those lines. As you should be able to see, it is literally the word sore plus the particle dewa, but of course in this case the dewa is a more casualized into ja. Moving on, we have the word sabishisa, which is just the noun version of the adjective sabishii, which of course means sad. So it turns from sad to sadness. That is turning adjectives into nouns. It's an e adjective, so you just drop the e at the end and add sa instead to turn into a noun. That's a grammar pattern in and of itself, pretty much. Now we're gonna mark sabishisa with the particle ni, because that is the particle we use when we're using the verb right after this, makeru, which means to lose to. So when you say something ni makeru, it basically means to lose to that thing, like to lose to someone, to your friend, to your opponent, whatever. But here we have makeru in its nai form, negative nai, so it turns into makenai. So sabishisa ni makenai is going to be to not lose to sadness. Right after that, we have the word gurai, which is a particle that means basically to the extent of. So to the extent of not losing. And with this wording, we should basically kind of have a good idea that what is going to follow here, we still need a verb action going on. Before that happens though, we have to, or we don't have to, but we're using an adverb, which is the adverb takusan, which is just gonna mean a lot. Or I take that back, that's not really an adverb, is it? It's like an adverbial noun because it's modifying the direct object to our verb, not the verb itself. So that is modifying the words right after it, which are going to be tanoshii, koto. Tanoshii, of course, the adjective we've been working with since pretty much the half point of this lesson. It means, of course, fun. It's modifying the noun right after it, which is koto, which means things. Then if the takusan is modifying that, of course that means a lot of fun things. We're gonna mark a lot of fun things with the direct object marker o. Then we're gonna have a verb, which is the verb suru, means to do, the very general verb that means just to do, kind of a default verb, and we're conjugating it into the volitional form, which is gonna turn it into shiyou. So instead of to do, let's do.
それじゃあ寂しさに負けないくらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう。
And that is gonna cover that whole line. それじゃ寂しさに負けないぐらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう. In that case, or then, let's just do fun things to the extent of those fun things not losing to sadness is the kind of literal translation. Our natural translation becomes, then let's just have so much fun that the sadness won't be able to overwhelm it. Or let's just have so much fun that won't lose to the sadness. You know, something along those lines.
でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね。楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね。それじゃあ寂しさに負けないくらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう。
And so that is where we're gonna end this part 3 to this multiple parts lesson. We still have a decent amount more to cover, at least probably 2 more after this. Of course, we're taking it step by step really. So let's review the lines that we did go over today. We covered basically 3 medium-sized ones. Let's go over the grammar patterns that we came across with them. With the first sentence, でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね, and that is going to have the grammar patterns of the tara form, which was used with kuru, so kitara, if comes, when comes, used with the word moshi, which is commonly used when we're using the hypothetical form, just as a kind of another indication of us doing that. Other than that, not really too many other grammar patterns. We used an adverb and an e adjective, which are kind of grammar patterns, I suppose. But the next line was probably our most difficult grammar pattern, or most intermediate. The ba form of a verb used with hodo to mean the more something is this, the more it is something else as well. And we use that with the words tanoshii and sabishii. So not only that, we use the marking te particle in that same line with the saying verb you, which is a grammar pattern kind of as well, using, you know, speaking verbs and marking things as quotes as a way to indicate that that was the thing that was said. In the last line, but not the least line or whatever, we use the grammar pattern of changing an adjective into a noun, changing sabishii into sabishisa, which is going to translate to sad, being changed into sadness. Basically, we use the negative nai form of a verb with makenai, to not lose. We use the particle gurai to mean basically to the extent of something. And then the final grammar pattern that makes its appearance in this lesson was the volitional form of a verb when we change suru into shiyou to mean let's do instead of to do. And so there you go, 3 lines covered, a decent amount of grammar points in them, and hopefully we were able to follow along in breaking down all of it. So last time, let's replay the clip and really let our knowledge sink into what's going on here, because we're gonna need to know everything crystal clear as we continue on into the next lesson that will cover this scene in this episode of this show.
でももしその時が来たらきっと寂しいね。楽しければ楽しいほど終わりは寂しいって言うよね。それじゃあ寂しさに負けないくらいたくさん楽しいことをしよう。
Alright, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Anime Line of the Day. Remember, if there were grammar patterns mentioned for this line, they'll be mentioned in the description or the pinned comment below with links to the individual lessons on them. You can also probably find them in the playlist of our complete grammar video series shown on the screen right here alongside our anime playlist. And last but not least, don't forget to try to translate the bonus line we provided. Leave your translation in a comment below. Check out our Patreon, like the video, and subscribe. With all that said and done, see you next time.